Hi everybody, Mike Beer here with your DRF race of the day for Sunday, April 19th. We're going down to Oaklawn Park, race number 9. A high-priced allowance optional claiming race with a big field of horses. This is a really good field. A lot going on in here. Not only with the big field, but a bunch of horses dropping out of stakes races. Several California shippers who seem to fit really well in here for top barns. There's just a lot going on. Let's take a look at the entry card here. As you see, a field of 12. The morning line favorite, number 8, My 6 Cents. And listen, I don't know if this horse is going to be favored in here. I certainly don't feel like he's the kind of horse you want to be taking 3-1 on, like the morning line has him. His recent form has been very good. Trainer Steve Hobby claimed him and has really improved this horse. But I don't know how short a price you want to take on him. And I'd be surprised, actually, if he wound up going favored in this race. The second choice on the morning line is the number 9, Dr. Door. He's shipping in for trainer Bob Baffert. He's second off of a very long layoff in here. He seems like he's probably set to improve. And he's got plenty of back class as well. He hasn't won a race in a long time, but he makes a lot of sense in here. The third choice on the morning line is another California shipper. This one for trainer Richard Baltus, the number 2, 235. He's 5-1 on the line. And he just makes a ton of sense in this race, dropping out of 3 straight graded stakes races. A lot going on in here. A lot of different horses can win. Let's take a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector to try and get some clues on how it's going to be run. And you can see that they have 3 horses relatively closely bunched up there on the early lead. They're not projecting a race that favors either front runners or closers, but they do have 3 horses up close together. They're led by the number 7, Shang. He's a big price for Steve Asmussen, a horse who, listen, he just looks like he's in really tough in this race, but that is his running style. They've been using his speed lately, putting him right up on the early lead. And so maybe that's what they'll do here and just try and make the front with him. I don't know that even if he gets to the front in this race that he can beat this field. This is a very tough spot for him. They also have My 6 Cents up close. I can see that happening. He won his last race from off the pace, but he's shown speed in the past. The number 12, Kershaw, is another Southern California shipper. They have him right up close to the pace, and I can certainly see that. That seems to be his best running style. He came off of a long layoff last time. He wired a field at Santa Anita. It looked good wiring that field at Santa Anita with a 95 buyer. And he's got post 12, so it feels like his hand is kind of forced. So I'll look for him to come out of there running as well. Let's just run down some of the contenders in here. Number 1 is Guest Sweet, a horse who's dropping out of 4 straight stakes races. One of those stakes tries the 5th season over this track back in January, and Guest Sweet won that day. 94 buyer speed figure over a wet track. He got a really good trip that day. He was very game to win, however. Listen, he's got races that make him a contender in here. I appreciate the fact that he has a nice inside post and that he has tactical speed as well. So maybe he just gets a really good trip in here and sort of takes advantage of it. I didn't love him, but he's a generous price on the morning line at 10-1. And I can see him running well. I'm looking elsewhere, however. 235, one of the horses I think you want to use. We'll see. I won't be surprised if he's actually the favorite in here come post time. Dropping out of 3 straight graded stakes races in Southern California. Didn't win any of them. Ran well in a couple of them, though. Most recently, we saw him in the Big Cap going 1.25 miles. He was no factor in there. I think that race is just too far for him. I didn't want to hold it against him. If you go back to last summer, he won the Brubaker at Del Mar over a mile. He finished a very close second in the Comet of the Top, also over 1 mile. And I think that could be key for him. I think slightly shorter distances are better for 235. 3 times in a row now, he's been defeated by Midcourt, one of the better older routing horses in Southern California. Most recently, that came in the Grade 2 San Pasquale, his first start of 2020. Let's look at the replay of that right now. 235, he ran well in this race. He's not a factor in here. He can't threaten Midcourt, who got loose on the lead in here and just controlled things and powered right along to an easy win. But I thought 235 ran well in here. He's only second best, a 98 buyer speed figure. The horse that finished right behind him, Combatant, came right back to win the Big Cap in his next start. 235 makes a ton of sense in this race. It's a horse I think you want to take very seriously. The 3 and the 4 are sort of bigger prices, I would suspect, in this race. Lone Rock has some credentials. He's back in William Van Meter's barn. William Van Meter's having a great meet here. His horses are very live. And this horse is back in Van Meter's barn after a short stint with Bill Mott up in New York. He's got some races that make him a contender in here. I didn't love him. He's going to stretch back out around 2 turns for this race, which he can handle. He's run well over this distance, around 2 turns in the past. I just preferred other horses in here. Sharp Prospect didn't look like a contender to me, switching from turf to dirt off of a couple of wins for trainer Joe Sharp. The 5 is Musical America. We'll see what happens with him. I'm a fan of his, mostly because he was not exactly a winning type early in his career. He switched to trainer Rob Atras last December. He was 2 for 28 at that time in his career. Rob Atras took over, and this horse immediately improved. He won his first 2 starts for Atras. I thought he looked good winning those races. He's been second best in his last 2 starts behind a couple of good horses. I just really like his recent form. He's going to stretch out in this race. He's getting a trainer change to David Fox. Obviously, with no racing in New York, they had to ship him out to run somewhere else. We'll see how that works out for him. It's a pretty nice horse. He's been in really good form lately. But I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach and see what happens when he returns to New York. The 6 is Thirst for Life. What can you say about Thirst for Life? I mean, he's been around for a while. He has plenty of back races to be really tough in this race. He has not run well recently, and that's sort of what you have to reconcile if you want to bet him in this race. His last 3 starts have not been good. That includes his 2020 debut over this track. Sort of a similar field to this one. And he just didn't run well. He couldn't hold his position in that race, dropped out of contention, didn't finish well. It was a very disappointing effort. I don't know if he can run anymore. But if you think that he can, if you think that trainer Wes Hawley can get him back to one of his good races, he's a major player in this race. He has plenty of back races to make himself really tough in here, and he's got a great running style for this race. The 7 is Shang. We touched on him a little bit with the pace projector. He's going to be right up there on or near the early lead. He is 6 for 12 in his life, newly turned 4-year-old for Asmussen. I thought he was in a very tough spot here. All 6 of those career wins have come against Louisiana breds, and he's been, he struggled a little bit in open company. We'll see what happens. It's Asmussen and Santana at a very big price on a horse with speed. I didn't like him in this race, but there are some things to at least consider with him. My Sixth Sense, we also touched on a little bit earlier, the morning line favorite. And again, I don't think he's going to be favored at post time, but there is no denying that he's really improved. Steve Hobby claimed this horse late last year. He won his first 3 dirt starts off the claim for Hobby. His figures really improved in those races. And then he came back and he won again last time. He got wired 2 starts back by Nick Sco, and then last time they took him back off the pace. He had won his first 3 starts for Hobby, getting right up there on or near the early lead. Last time they took him back. He made a determined run through the stretch, and he just got up. It wasn't, a super impressive effort, but it was a pretty good one. He was very game to win. I feel like he's in a very tough spot here. If he's going to be a short price in here, I just have no interest in him. But if he drifts way up, I won't knock his recent form. The number 9 is Dr. Door. Again, he's shipping in for Baffert. He hasn't won a race in nearly 2 years. His last win, April 28th of 2018, that came in the Grade 2 Californian at Santa Anita. He ran a 108 buyer winning that day. He came out of that race in the Grade 1 Gold Cup, ran a 105 buyer when finishing second best. Clearly, he has the back class to be a major factor in this race. His first start off the layoff last time, and it was a pretty long layoff. They put him right up on the pace. He sat up there with Route 66. They matched around the turn, and this horse was just no match in the stretch as Route 66 went on to win that race. I didn't think he ran great, but as a starting off point, it wasn't terrible. He could certainly take a step forward in here, and if he does, I guess he's a contender. I'm not a big Dr. Door fan, but I will say this: he's got speed, and the pace projector didn't have him up close, but I think he has enough speed to be up close in this race, and I think they will get aggressive with him in here. The 10 is Tone Broke. Another big price for Asmussen, a newly turned 4-year-old. He's a very versatile horse. He's won on all 3 surfaces. He finished 3rd in the Queen's Plate last year as a 3-year-old, and then he won the final 2 legs of the Canadian Triple Crown, 1 on turf, 1 on dirt. He was in really good form at that time. Since those races, they've stepped him up in class, and he has not been effective. He's really struggled against the better horses recently. I do think there's something there with him. I think there's a chance he turns out to be pretty good down the line. He's cutting way back in distance for this. I think he's okay. I just think this is a tough spot for him. The 11 is Lone Sailor. We're all familiar with Lone Sailor. He was on the, he was in the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness as a 3-year-old in 2018. Nothing but graded stakes races on his card. He doesn't win a lot. He's only 3 for 25, but he's always right around it. He tends to show up and run his race. He's going to have to bounce back out of a disappointing effort last time at the fairgrounds. That's a race, if you see the short comment, bumped hard, early checked. Technically true, but he didn't really have that tough a trip in there. They put him in tight early. After that, he just rode the rail and didn't really make a run. The good news for Lone Sailor is he's bounced back out of poor efforts before. And going back 2 starts on his card to a race here at Oaklawn where they dropped him in to an allowance race, I thought he ran well in that race. We have a replay there. We'll show him winning that day. He's just going to get it done by a neck after a stretch duel with the runner-up. But I thought Lone Sailor ran well in here, and I think he ran better than it may look on paper with only an 89 buyer and a narrow victory as an odds-on favorite. Talamo was riding that day. He's back aboard today. I think Talamo got him involved. He made an early move in that race to get him into range. And I appreciated the way that Lone Sailor carried that run for a very long way, all around the turn, all through the stretch. I thought he ran well in that race. And to me, he's a contender in here at a price, especially if he catches some pace. And the 12, another Southern California shipper, Kershaw. He came off of a long layoff last time at Santa Anita. And got right to the front. He ran really well in that race. He didn't take any pressure on the lead, and he was never threatened through the stretch. He just looked good winning with a 95 buyer. All 4 career wins for him have been when he's been able to get up there on the lead. And, from post 12, we'll see what happens. They're going to have to send him to try and get up there. Worth noting that D'Amato shipped him here and entered him in the Oaklawn Mile last weekend, a really tough running to that race. He drew post 12 that day as well, so they scratched him. And now he shows up here. Unfortunately, he got post 12 again. But this is an easier spot for him, and he did look good winning that race last time. So he's a contender, too. It's a very interesting race. Let's put the picks up there, because I am going to look for a price in here. It's just too wide open to me to take a short price on anybody. We already sort of talked about what you have to reconcile if you want to take Thirst for Life, and I did put him on top in this race. I know that his recent form isn't good, and if he just can't run anymore, then he's going to be nowhere in here. But he's got back races that make him tough in here. I'm going to give him a chance to rebound, and I put him on top at a big price. 6, 11, 2, and 12 will be my picks in this race. It is a very good race. The race of the day for Sunday at Oaklawn Park, the 9th, a big field of 12. It's a very, very good race. The approximate post time is 5:09 Central Time. Good luck.